What's up, guys? I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to explain to you how to do a full wrap on a truck. But before we do that, I've had a few questions about paper. People seem to have a problem with the paper, so I'm going to explain it to you really quick. We have inkjet waterslide paper, which is clear. Clear paper will go over white trucks, very light colored trucks, yellow. But the problem with clear color paper, if you don't put it over white, it'll show through the color of the body of the truck. So say the truck is black and you want to print over it, the black is not going to show up unless you're using a white body. So in that case, you want to go with a white paper if you're going over a black truck or a dark colored truck. So clear for light colored trucks, and dark colored trucks will use white backed. Now we have inkjet paper, and we also have, for people who have laser printers, we have laser printer. It also comes in white and it also comes in clear. So that's the differences between paper. So let me gather up the stuff that I need and we'll get to a full wrap video. Be right back. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about the little glitch there. So what we're going to need to do a full wrap is a pair of scissors, a pair of trimming scissors. Let me make sure I'm in camera where I can film the best. An X-Acto knife, pretty sharp blade. Our decal. For all you MTA fans, we'll do an MTA K&J Motorsports truck today. If you haven't seen MTA, let me give a shout out to my buddy Steve over at Monster Truck Attitude. It's the MTA on Facebook, YouTube. So look for Monster Truck Attitude on YouTube and you can watch the Diecast customs, run down the ramp. Steve does a really good job with the show and we've been a long time subscriber. It's a lot of fun. So if you haven't done it, check it out. So there's my plug for Steve. You're welcome, Steve. Let's get to full wrapping. So what we need is a test body because we're going to need to size these decals up. So we get our test body and then here's our body that we're going to use to put the decals on. So our first step, what we want to do is to cut this decal out. So I'm going to cut it along the lines and we're going to make it a little smaller. So I'll be right back after I get done doing that. Alright guys, our decals are cut out. I got the grill and I got the rest of the body. So the next step we want to do is we'll get right to this so you guys don't have to sit around and wait for my boring videos. But you guys have actually been pretty good with me. I'm sorry I'm not the best video maker, The one thing that would be nice though is you guys could comment, maybe like, tell your friends to subscribe. I mean, it's not a big deal because this is just more for fun and educational. But it'd be nice to spread the word. So here's our decal. The first thing we want to do is we want to take our test body. Okay, I'm going to try to stay in camera. So if I work right here where my hands are, sorry about the band-aid, my dog scratched me. We want to take the decal, we want to take the body, and we want to line the decal up to the body on the side. So say we're doing K&J Motorsports, we want to take the K&J Motorsports and we want to line it up. Sorry, I had it upside down there. So we got a Monster Jam symbol here. We can kind of line it up to that. And it should fit pretty good. So once we get it all lined up, make it really nice. Take your time. Line it up good. I'm going fast but I'll take my time. You can kind of line it on the bottom like that. You want to take your pencil and you want to draw around it, but you want to leave a little bit of space so when the truck gets cut, it'll lap out. So go down, draw around it until you get an outline, something like that. Okay, so let's put it back on there. got our outline. And you don't want to forget the wheel wells. So get up in there, just do a little scratching, just so you can kind of see where to cut. This is a tough one because a little nubby on there, but the other one doesn't. Okay, so there's our decal cut. So I'll cut this out and I'll show you the next step. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So here's our decal cut out. Kind of fits, right? Not really good. So what we're going to do is, because we're going to lap this over, we're going to flip this over and flip this over. You want to take your little trimming scissors and you want to make a little trim right there by the hood. Just give it a little snip, and then right there by the back. I find when you're sliding them off, it makes it a lot easier to make these folds. So there, in the front by the hood, a little tiny one on the top of the windshield because the fold's going to go over, and then one in the back because we're going to fold. Oh, sorry about that, guys. My phone just timed out on me. So I just cut you away. So what I was talking about is you want to take and you want to cut the little fold off of it. So since then, I have actually dipped this. So it's nice and wet. We got our little cuts on the top like I was telling you about. So we want to take our body, dip it again, get it all nice and wet, slide that decal away. This is hard to work with now because it's been setting. We'll slide it away, we'll line it up where we need it to go. Got a little fold in it. That happens sometimes. Just take your time, you can get the folds out. But see where the little cuts are now? So we can fold these things over and get them into the grooves. Make sure in the back that you have enough. Are you still recording? Yes, okay. Make sure it didn't time out on me again. That you have enough in the back here and you have enough for the roof to go over. So make sure those are over the pillar, and then same in the front here. That's why we made those little cuts on the roof and in the back. Okay, so I will be right back and I will apply the other side. All right, I'm back. So this one I kind of went through. I made sure all the air bubbles are out of it. There's actually one air bubble right here. You can just kind of press it, slide them out gentle. Make sure I wrap. If you can't get it tucked into the windshield, you can take a pencil or a something sharp and just tuck it in there. Hold it with your finger in the back, kind of press it up against the inner, and take your tissue and just tap it down. And that should make it stick a little better, because sometimes they don't stick very good. Then once they're in there and they start drying up, you can go through and you can fix whatever is messed up. So let's move on to the other side. I usually like to do the sides first. So this decal has been sitting for a little while in the water because I did that beforehand. I'm pretty sure we're still in camera. Okay, so we want to dip it like we normally do. We got our little cuts on the windshield and the hood and in the back. We want to lay it on our body. Give it a little press. Figure out where you want it to go. Kind of line it up the best you can. And once you get it lined up and you kind of have an idea, take that back and slowly slide it away. Keep it lined up. Now the best with this is to do it from the bottom and slide left and right until it comes up. And once it's out, just throw that away. Okay, now our decal's on. We're going to make sure the roof is lined up. That's the first job. So get up here, check your roof. Make sure it's around the pillars. Tuck it in. Tuck it down in the fender. Make sure it's not on the bottom here. Turn it around. Am I still in camera? Yep. Okay, I gotta work over here. I gotta remember so I don't get out of camera for you guys like I did in the last video. So there you have it. So we're kind of looking pretty good. So now once it's in place where you like it, take your tissue like we talked about. Get in the corners usually first. That's what I do. And I get the window pillar. Yeah, I see the pencil go flying. I'm not really good at making videos because I'm trying to go fast for you guys. This is really a slow process. You want to just take your time when you do this. You don't really want to rush through it because then you start making mistakes. It's not on right. And if I make a mistake on this video, then I have to kind of start it all over. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to take my time. You guys can watch, whatever. So it's on there pretty good. I think we're looking fairly good. We could have cut this one out, right? Just like we should have cut the other side out. But that doesn't matter because when we're all done, we're going to take, once these are dry, we're going to take our X-Acto knife and we're going to cut right along it with our scissors first. And then we're just going to tuck it up underneath the body. So the next step we want to do is to let this dry up for a good, I don't know, give it 15 minutes. So these decals are nice and stuck. Because if we don't let it dry up, when we start working with this one, these are going to slide around and then we're going to be in all kinds of trouble. So I'll be back in 15 minutes. But the magic of video, you'll see me in a second. Alright guys, it's been about 15 minutes. So what I was talking about, now that these are kind of dried up, you can work with them a little better. We have a little bit of extra underneath here. So what we want to do is we cut it off, like I was telling you, cut it just a little bit longer, and then take your finger, get a little water, wet the sill up, and just pull that up underneath there. Same thing with whatever else you have hanging off. You don't want to cut it too short, you want to leave a little bit. So this way it looks like it tucks underneath the fenders. So the color kind of carries a little better. You don't have white fenders. If you cut them too short, which a lot of people do, you can always take some black, a black pen or black paint or whatever, and just get the bottoms of the fenders and they'll hide better. But I like to do the color of the body. So there we go. So let's move on to the roof now. The roof is generally done the same way. So my shout out to Steve Jones at, Monster Truck Attitude, like we were saying. So this one's got to line up on the roof. So if you look at it, you can kind of get an idea of where it goes. We want to leave the lightning bolt pretty much to the very, very back so we can get the K and J up on the front. So let's line it up. Once we get it in place, hold it tight, flip it over, take that pencil, get in there and mark it up. Remember to leave a little extra. You don't have to go too complicated here. Just trying to make marks so you can kind of follow them like a trace. So there's my marks. I want to make sure that the K and J is up there enough. So sometimes I got a light on my camera. What I'll do is I'll turn it around and I'll look through where my marks were, and if they're not in the right spot, I'll move them. Like this one here, you guys can't see, but my mark actually is right about here, so I don't want that. So the best thing to do is to put it back on and make sure. But seeing this one has a little line right there, we will just cut it off right at the top. We're going to cut it at a little bit of bow. And we want to square this off because of the roof. Leave enough for the pillars. Only a little bit for the pillar. Because I know what I'm doing, I can kind of do this by eye, or I'm sure you guys would have to kind of mark it up. But after a while, when you do a couple of them, you kind of get used to them. So here we go. We got the K and J on there. We got enough to tuck under the pillars. And we're pretty lined up. So we want to kind of cut it back because we want to get this to fold over. We want to leave that a little long, right? So we'll probably cut it right at the bottom of the lightning bolt. And that'll give us enough to play with in the front and enough to play with in the back. So let's cut it on the lightning bolt. Just cut it straight across. And see, we got enough to play with on the back right there. So this one kind of covers the pillars really well. So I can go ahead and I can square this line off, just to leave it a little bit long in the front, because sometimes you don't have enough and you want it for the pillars. But our other cuts were really good, so we can get rid of those little wings that I had up there, excuse me, and we'll take it from there. So there's our other decal. Let's soak it in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, blah, 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 blah. So let's let it sit. And while that one's sitting, we can go ahead, because these are dry pretty good, we can do our hood decal. Just remember, when you have decals, see how this one got wet? You got to be careful, because you're working with the water and you can mess up the decal. So let's put our hood on. We'll line it up kind of where we want it to go. It's upside down, like an idiot. Okay. And here's our little marks for the fenders. So this one's pretty basically easy to cut out. We can just go across. We don't even have to mark this one. We can kind of visualize it. So you want to visualize it on the hood. Now you got to remember that this hood has a fold, so you're going to have to leave a little bit of extra on the end, or you're going to lose it. You know what I mean? The decal has to be a little longer, because when you fold, it's going to shrink. So let's go out here. We'll cut it at an angle. Get rid of all our scraps. Make sure our table is dry, because these decals will start opening up on us. Throw those in the trash. Okay, and we're ready for our roof decal. It's been sitting there long enough, so we know the process from the other video. Well, yeah, I was supposed to tell you guys, like, to leave comments and stuff like that, so I get kind of some feedback, so I know where to go with this whole thing. You know, like if this is stuff that you want me to do. So we're going to slide it away from the back. I'm going to line it up on the truck. This part's pretty easy to do. The roof is pretty flat. The only tricky part about this is you want to make sure that you have enough pulled forward that it tucks in on the window, because we're trying to cover these pillars, right? So we want to tuck it up enough, and make sure the same thing in the back. See, this one's a little long, so what we'll do is we'll move it up really far, and we can tuck it into the windshield instead of trying to cut this. So let's line it up here. We'll line it up with the K and J in the front, tuck it in. Just take our tissue once we get it in place. You want to follow these lines from your fold, right? So you want to line it up and make sure those are kind of looking even. If you're really good, you can actually make these perfect. But this is just an example truck, so there's a little overlap. You'll see a little red line there, but no biggie for what we're working with. So we'll press it into place, but make sure it's all lined up. You don't want it crooked on the roof, because it'll look silly. So take it and eyeball it, look down on it, you know, look over, make sure that everything's looking nice and square and even for you before you give it a good press. And just press it in place when you're happy. Hit the back fold, hit the front fold, and there we go. And there's the roof. So the next thing we have is the hood. See, that wasn't fully stuck on there and it started to fall off. That's why you got to let it set before you do the roof and the hood and all that stuff. So the hood's kind of cut. It's a little bit long. What I like to do is I like to line it up. Let me move it over here so you guys can see. I like to line it up. And on the back side, I make sure I have enough. So my pillar is right here. My other pillar is right here. So I want to make a little mark on the bottom of that pillar and a little mark on the bottom for that pillar. And then I want to take my scissors and I want to just give it a cut, because this is going to fold underneath the hood. So the next thing we want to do is we want to cut off any extra. This is where you can actually take it like this and you can mark it. Just make sure you leave enough that because you're gonna wrap your fenders. Just mark it like you normally would. Get it around the grill. So there we go. So let me cut this out and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. So here's our decal. I'm going to stick it in the water. Do the old 10 count. Set it aside. Actually, we can set it right on the hood for now. Let it set there. And get an idea of where it needs to go. We'll leave it there for a second. And we have a grill over here. I'm going to put that grill on. So what I'm going to do is just cut around whatever. Remember the stroke I was telling you about for light colored trucks and dark colored trucks? You want to put that stroke. Maybe I didn't tell you. Maybe I was in the chat. But I think one of my friends asked me how you do it. So just leave a stroke around it, because it's the color of the truck. But these are clear, so it's not going to matter too much. It doesn't matter if I cut. But if these were white back decals, I'd want to cut all the white out, because that would show up. But seeing they're clear, it really doesn't matter. I could have cut it longer, I could have cut it shorter, because the clear is going to show through. So our grill's going to go on after, and we'll match that up later. But let's put the hood on right now. So there's the hood. Dip it again, right? We always dip it twice. Wet it all up really good. We'll slide it off. And with the hood, what I usually like to do is I like to put it up against the back first. Kind of like that. And then I can kind of go through and I can place it in there really well. Sorry, I didn't mean to flip you off. I'll use this finger. And once I get it in the place that I want it, kind of right, a little left more. This is a tough one to line up. That's why you just take your time. You know, I mean, I'm rushing for you guys, so you don't have to sit here and watch this. So once you get it in place, just press it in place. Try to get it down over those corners of the fender wells. And if you have a hard time getting the corners, you can take your pencil with a nice eraser and just get in there and just kind of tap it until it kind of sticks in pretty well for you. You can do the same with the window pillars. You can get in there and you can pull it down. But see, this is why we did those two little cuts. Because if you look at the bottom, you can see it flips up underneath. So you want to take your finger and you want to tuck it in there. Once you get it all tucked in, you're looking pretty good. If you're happy with it, that's where you go. So let me take a break and I'll be right back and we'll finish up the front grill. Alright guys, I'm back. While I was away, I went ahead and I cut the last two decals. I cut the grill one and I cut the one for the little back. So the first one we're going to put on is we got to go in, we'll have to trim all this up later, You can use your X-Acto knife and you can tuck it all up in there like we did the fender wells. So let's soak this one for the back. Try not to fold it. Get in there, soak. And we'll let it sit there. We'll soak the grill one. This is really the wrong grill for this truck, but I'm just doing it for an example. This one's actually for an SUV, but I got a Willys body here from my son of a digger. But I didn't want to go and print out a whole new set of decals, so we'll just kind of give you an idea. But see, the grill's kind of looks a little silly on there. So what we want to do is, we shouldn't have wet it. We should have lined it up first, obviously, right? Before we wet it. But seeing these are clear decals, it shouldn't be too bad for us. It's really hard to cut decals when they're wet, but I got to make two little notches here. A notch here for this bottom, so we can tuck it around the fenders. And we'll check our size. We should have sized this a little better. That's not too bad. And we'll get rid of the outside right here. And this outside. So let's put our decal on. We wet it again, right? Get it sliding off. I usually take my finger and I put it underneath the body so I can press. Grills can be kind of tricky sometimes, because they tend to be tiny and slide around. Anything that you do that's tiny, it makes it a little more difficult. So once we get it in our place where we want it, want to gently tap it into place so it don't slide on us. See, it slid, so now I got to fix it. So line it up, look down on it, get it to where you like it. And then once you get it all in that place, just press it. Give it a good press. And it should stick in there pretty good. Don't worry about all that extra. Once this dries up, you can get in here and you can trim this with your sharp scissors. But make sure you got a decent pair of sharp scissors. Mine are kind of worn out. It tends to give me difficulty sometimes trying to trim these little lines. So get yourself a decent pair of sharp trimming scissors. And there you go, the grill's on there. We'll let it dry up. Give it a few more presses here. Try to pull back on it so it sticks in there nice. And now let's do the back piece. It should be all wet. Give it a dip again. Flip it around. Slide it off. Let it wrap around. Get it where you want it to go. And just press it in place. So I'm going to end this video here. Give you these guys got kind of a good idea how to do it. What you want to do is after, make sure, go check, make sure your pillars are all tight, because sometimes things will slide around on you, you know, and check your grill line, check, you know, just check to make sure your seams are correct up top here. But there you go. The next thing you want to do is get yourself a little body for it. This grill needs to be pressed on there more, but you get the idea. Get yourself a body, and the next thing we'll go through is we'll learn how to detail up a frame. So, till next time, take care.